the leadership. When we were speaking of leadership, we were speaking of man leadership, control, command. I sat on around 50 boards in my life, and I don't like the word human resources. How could you, as a board, supervise your CEO when you are the chair and the CEO? I want to be a woman that would change the world for other women.
Welcome to Business Minds. Today we are delighted to welcome Louise Champoux-Paillé. Louise, thank you very much for being with us today.
Thank you to choose me for this interview.
Of course, very pleased. So usually we give a brief presentation of our guests. In your case, your career is so rich and you have been in so many industries that I will let you the honor to present yourself and explain to us what have been your main roles during your career so that our audience can know you a bit better.
Okay, so for now, I'm co-director of the Lorenzetti Center. It's related to the Concordia University, and I'm co-director. So we have as objective to promote the women in entrepreneurship, and leadership. It's a kind of involvement that characterized my career, to promote women and to be sure that we are aware of the talents of women in our society. I'm also board member. It's something that characterized my life for 40 years.
Yeah.
I sat on around 50 boards in my life, and for now, I'm sitting on the board of Canada Post. That's a state-owned corporation of the federal government. I'm sitting also on the board of SAAQ. That's also a state organization, but of the provincial government. We are issuing licenses for drivers. And third, I'm sitting on the board of Saint Justine. That's an hospital for children. I'm sitting there for around about 8 years. And I'm also vice president of the board of directors. That's my main involvement. But I would like to add that for 10 years and more, I'm doing a review, a press review of what it is published around the world on governance. So at 5 o'clock every morning for 2 hours, I go around all the magazines that are published on governance and see what I can share on LinkedIn on governance, ethics, risk management. So it's a big involvement for me, because I begin my day at 5 o'clock. It's rare that I go to bed before 10 o'clock.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's my life, and I love it.
Very impressive. Thank you very much. We will get into the details a bit later. So first of all, we would like to understand where your journey began. So my first question is pretty simple. Where did you grow up? And what kind of job were you dreaming to do when you were a kid?
Wow. I was born in Trois-Rivières. It's not very far from Montreal, but it's a beautiful world near the St. Lawrence River. And there is a lot of forest there and many other rivers in that region. Hence
the proximity of the river and the forest we
yes,
have right now.
Yes, I'm very proud to be from this region. I was born there and raised there till 20 years. So I did all my collegial studies in Trois-Rivières. And when you ask me what I was dreaming at that time. When I was 16 years old, I told to the nuns that were raising us, I want to be a woman that would change the world for other women. At 16 years old, and she said, "Are you sure of that? You don't?" I said, "Yes, I want to be such a woman."
Wow. Beautiful answer. We were not really expecting this. Usually people talk about astronaut or doctor, this kind of thing. So that's pretty original.
No, I want to change the world for women.
Incredible, beautiful. Would you say if you had this social kind of personality trait, do you think there were any signs that you would pursue a career in business somehow?
Or
Early on?
when I begin my study at the university, it is as an economist. So an economist is someone who wants to change things for others, for me. And it was not in the business. I think of my career, it was not in the business, it was in the governmental world.
Okay.
But I never worked in that field. The first job I had, it was for the Bureau of New Airport of Montreal. It was an airport which was supposed to be located in Mirabel. In 1976, it was at Mirabel, but they closed it after.
Yeah.
And my job was to do the provision for customers for the airport. So it was as an economist to do forecasts. It's our job. So it was the first job I have. And after, I've been at the National Bank of Canada. And National Bank of Canada, I was doing the forecast for deposits. But it was in the marketing service.
Okay.
And to be in the marketing service, yes, you have to forecast your customer, but you have also to have an idea to identify new product, new services for the clientele, and it's there that I have the idea to have my career in business.
Okay, so it went along. So when you were starting your first job, first at the airport of Mirabel, and then
A National Bank.
the National Bank, did you already have a goal in mind of where you would want to go later, or was it just the first step of changing the world?
It was not the first step of changing the world. I would say the first step of changing the world, it was in 1986 when I decided to do my MBA. Because I have a training in economics, and I was working in the business world. But I didn't know anything about business. So that's why I decided to do my MBA. And there I find something very important for me. We have some people coming from different countries. People coming from China, from Madagascar, from Russia, and I think also from France. But there were people coming from everywhere, but also from different fields. We have nurses in our class. We have architects, and it was the first time that had some in my class or in my environment that had people coming from other regions or other countries or other disciplines. And we were using a lot business case at that time. So we have a group, 4 or 5 persons, and in the group we have to add some women and men, but also at least one person of another discipline or another country.
Okay.
As I told you at the beginning, I was raised in Trois-Rivières. At that time, there was no one coming from other country. So it was the first time that I was seeing some people coming from other countries, and their difference were not only in their race or their color or religion, it was in their way they conceive a problem, the way that they will find a solution. And it was sometimes complementary of us, but sometimes very different. And very often, the solution they were bringing were permitting us to go ahead in the solution. So it was the great discovery, diversity, and diversity in business was something that can make a difference in the quality of the management we have. So when we are speaking where I decide to build my career in business, it was at that time, at the MBA, that I decided that it was the way I will do my life.
Excellent. And you said that was in Montreal, right?
Yes.
In which university?
UQAM.
UQAM, so University of Quebec in Montreal.
Yes.
Perfect. So you've talked a bit about the beginning of your career already. In your early years, you mentioned your mom too. Did you have like role models, inspiration figures that inspired you to lead that way?
At that time, men were principally, it was men that was our role models, because there was some women. In politics, we have some women, but in business world, we don't have a lot of them. But I have one, and I will tell you the story. I was the first woman to be nominated as a marketing manager at the National Bank as a woman. Okay. The very first one. It was in 1981. And I was invited to the board of directors at that time to present a new product that we were considering to launch. And I was with my vice president, a huge table, and about 25 persons at that board. At that time, boards were we had 25 to 30 people sitting on board of banks, and they were men, mainly men with only one woman. And I was very impressed of that board. So I didn't find a word to present my new product. So my vice president but Louise will continue the presentation, but before I will do the introduction, and after I did it. And after this presentation, the woman came to me and she said, I would like to have a lunch with you and to give you some advice. I was at that time 30 years old. So I went with her for the lunch. And she said to me, I know the state in which you were, but I have confidence in you. And to see a person like that, she was the only woman on the board, And she said, I will mentor you. And that was the first key of my career. And she stayed with me during 5 years. And she was not, at that time, after on the board, but she take her time, every month, to meet me and give me advice. And I think that when you can have this kind of person with you at the beginning of a career, it makes difference.
Indeed. Wow. Another beautiful story. So this was like you said, the first turning point in your career.
Right.
Did you have others later on? What will be the key turning points in your career which made your career what it is today?
I would say I spoke previously of my MBA. It was a very important stone in my career. But I would add also the presidency of the Bureau of Financial Services in Quebec. It was a very new organization. It was a state-owned corporation of Quebec, and our responsibility was to regulate financial professional, that is, in insurance, in financial planning, and in mutual funds. That was around 30,000 people.
What was your role exactly?
I was the CEO of the Bureau of Financial Services.
So you were leading all the projects?
Yes, and chair also of the board of directors.
Wow. Okay.
So at that time, it was the two functions were together. Now it's not a good way to govern the organization. We are separating the function of CEO and the function of chair, because the board has for responsibility, one of its responsibility is the supervision of the CEO. How could you, as a board, supervise your CEO when you are the chair and the CEO? So there is a conflict of interest. But at that time, we were at the beginning of the governance, and it was the way to do it. But right now, in the United States, you still have some organizations that have the accumulation of the CEO and the board of directors and the chair of the board of directors.
Okay.
So it was the second one, and the third one is I've been president of LECAN. LECAN is the association of for children living with leukemia.
Okay.
My daughter has leukemia. She was hospitalized for 4 years and a half.
Oh, sorry to hear.
At Saint Justine.
Okay.
That's why I'm on that board.
The involvement, yeah.
And at that time, it was a very small organization. Now, when you are speaking of LECAN in Quebec, everyone knows LECAN. At that time, it was a very small one, and they were not known in the business field. So, we had to develop ways to get money from businesses, and it was one of my realization. But also, as I told you before, I came from Trois-Rivières. When my daughter was hospitalized at Saint Justine, there were some people coming from regions. and they they are treated each week. So they have to travel. People have to travel when they are in region.
From the countryside
Yes.
to the city. Okay.
And when you are receiving chemotherapy, it's not it's long a travel of 30 minutes. Imagine 1 hour or 2 hours. And I decide to promote the fact that we have to have services in region in order to answer to that situation. And I would say that for Le Camp, it was my second big realization.
Excellent. Beautiful again. Thank you very much for this. New question now. What do you think are the most important skills to become a manager or to hold a leadership position for someone who wants to grow their career?
I would say that it changed a lot because I have told you before, I began my career in 1971, so that's 50 years ago. At that time, the leadership, when we were speaking of leadership, we were speaking of man leadership, control, command. Now, it's different. We have more women in the function, and it gives another perspective. For me, it's complementary. You have men who are doing command and control leadership now, but we have also men who are using the qualities we attribute to women, empathy, compassion, and we have the same thing on the women's side. We have women that have chosen the other way to do their leadership, and they are doing this like with the command and control. So now we have a complementary view of the leadership, but we have also more empathy, more compassion, more generosity in the way we manage human resources. And I don't like the word human resources because when we are on the board, we are speaking of financial resources, informational resources, and human resources. For me, human resources, it's not money, it's talents. And we have to consider people in our organization as person that we have to develop, and we have to give them a well-being situation. For me, it's really important, and that is the characteristics that will mark the leadership of today and tomorrow. This sensibility to the people. For me, it's really important.
So we have talked a lot about your main achievements and what you were very proud of. Looking at the other side of the coin, what was the biggest crisis you ever had to face, and how did you manage to get out of it?
I would say the biggest crisis I have to manage, it was the fact that my daughter has leukemia, and that during that period I continued to work and I take a break. I have vacation, but it was a crisis situation. And I have something, I, I wouldn't have succeed in this period without my husband. And it's something that we don't speak enough, the partnership that we have in a life. The fact that when we have children or we have a project in common, when we are a couple, it can facilitate the life, it can help us to succeed in such period. And I would say that in a professional career, you have to be supported by the person you are living with. It could be a man or woman. It's, for me, it's when you have the chance to live your life with someone who cares for you. It's very important. And the difficult period I had to live with Gabrielle, my daughter, it was something difficult, and without my husband, it won't be the same. I won't have the same career as today.
Okay, very, very beautiful again. My next question sounds silly now that we've gotten to the more emotional side, but what do you think are the most important skills that you have acquired in your life?
Empathy. It's difficult to place ourselves in the place of someone else. And when you have to take decision as a manager or as a board of directors, you have to have this quality. So for me, empathy is very important. It's a problem of our society to live in such individual that we consider too often our personal problem and not the collective problem that exists.
And how do you think we can do that? Sometimes it's difficult when you have a long hours job every day with family responsibilities, home responsibilities, projects on the side. How do you think we can, what are the ways to take a break from it, to just pause and think about all these things and take the time to get the heart back on the conversation?
For me, the way I am using, I like to walk in the to walk in the forest. I love I love birds. I love animals, and it's the way I see a form of kindness in that world. And when I'm back at work, I see the problem differently. So I'm living in the nature in a certain way.
I would like to ask you, do you believe that the way people looked at you changed since you joined different boards, especially since you were one of the first women, as you said in the beginning? Do you think the look that you were getting from people changed?
Because I'm very involved in mentoring and sponsoring, I would say that when I meet someone, some new person, they see me as a person who can help them in order to be a better board member or simply to access to the board member function.
That's a good transition, actually. How do you become a board member, just in general?
If I refer to the beginning of our conversation, the first board I have is l'EUCAN, Association of Children with Leukemia. So it appeals for me, this association. And the other one was the MBA Association of Quebec. At that time, it was in 1988, around that. The MBA we had in Quebec were mostly coming from United States, Harvard, MIT, and so forth. And we were beginning to have program for MBA. And for me, it was important to say that we have here quality programs for MBA. And it was the objective of my presidency at that time to promote the excellence of our program of MBA in Quebec. So you have, when you begin your career, you have to pick something that means something for you. If you choose something, it's in music, and you don't have any interest in music, you won't succeed. So the first thing is that. And the second thing, you have to choose an organization or to pick a function that you could make a difference on the board. If they give you the financial aspect of the board, and you have you don't like this kind of work, you won't be a good board member, and you won't establish the credibility required for the other boards you could have in the time. So you have to choose a function where you can excel. Second one. And the third one, you have to see what will be your next step, in which field I would like to go, and then you have to develop your network, cultivate your network in order to reach the other steps you want to reach in your board member career. So it's a question of credibility, to establish your credibility, and a question also to build your network to reach what you want to reach in the future.
Okay, so you talked a lot about how to choose the right one and how to get in the right way, but how do you get the board to choose you? Would be my question.
How you get it's I would say that now with Lincoln, you can identify in your resume, or you can identify the type of boards you want to have. You have also to say, when you are networking, the type of boards you want to sit on. And you have also to build a networking function of that. If we want to sit on a board of an hospital, and you want to sit on couche-tard, it's not the same thing. Mm-hmm. So you have to, for me, you have to be strategic in the development of your career.
Thank you for this. There is one thing that we have not talked about yet that was very important in your career. It is the notion of ethics at work. This is something that you've worked on a lot. Can you tell us a little bit more about this dimension that you worked on in your career?
For ethics, on boards, I'm doing a lot of work in order to try to establish a culture of ethics. In a lot of decisions, we can have conflict of interest present in a decision. But it's not, you have to develop in your board members the sensibility of the impact of conflict of interest. You have to, it's not to judge someone and say you are in conflict of interest. You have to develop the reflection. Is it a conflict of interest? And how could I deal with it? But also, how could we deal with it in a group? Mm-hmm. Because you have now all the reputational risks that are associated with an organization that we consider non-ethical. So we have to have this in mind in mostly all our board meetings. So it's a way of thinking, and someone has to, we have to develop this culture, a culture of ethics, and this is with education, continuous education, but also in developing courage in our board, because it's difficult to speak of ethics sometimes. So, and courage, sometimes it's difficult to tell the things as they are. So you have to have in your board someone who have the flag of ethics, okay. And so it's a culture. It's a question of culture, question also of sensibility of your board members, and you have to have someone who raise the flag when there is a problem.
So we're getting slowly to the end of this interview. So I would like to ask you, what is the best piece of advice you have ever received? And would you give the same piece of advice to your 20-year-old young self?
I would say that's my father, who told me, I was 10 or 12 years old, always be courageous. And I will repeat the same thing. The courage. It's something, you know, that in the artificial intelligence, what will difference us? It's the human qualities. But I would say the great qualities of a person that I respect is that the courage and the fact to be authentic.
Very beautiful. Thank you for this. So now to end this interview, I have shorter questions to wrap it up. So first one, still personal. After everything you've done already, what do you have left to accomplish?
To create a world where the inclusion is realized not only on sex, but on all the different ways we can do inclusion. And inclusion could include the fact that now we have 5 generations in the business world.
Okay.
That's
Is it the first time?
it's something special. It never happened before.
Yeah.
And you can learn from each generation. I spoke to you before of mentorship, and mentorship we always associate that to an experiment person who's giving advice to a younger one.
Yeah.
But it could be different. So to live in a world in which each person bring its own value added, it is my dream.
Would you say you still have done a good job already?
Yes.
we can remember it still. Very good. Now, if you could have a private meeting with someone, anyone, dead or alive, who would it be?
Nelson Mandela,
Okay.
because with courage and he has trust that the world could be better, always. So I will be very happy to meet him.
Very inspiring again. Excellent. Now, the next 3 are your personal favorites we would like to ask you. The first one, what is the book that inspired you the most?
Oh, it's the same. When I was 12 years old, c'est Le Petit Prince
Oh, wow.
de Saint-Exupéry.
Wow.
It's the book where we have a person with empathy. Le Petit Prince is someone with empathy, is someone courageous, and it is someone who wants to change the world.
Excellent way to end an interview. This leads us to my last question, very last question. What can we wish you for the future?
To reach 100 years, to be 100 years, to 100 ans, to vivre 100 ans.
Beautiful. Yeah.
It's
100 years of age.
it's my dream because I have a lot of things to do before, and I didn't have time. I want to have time, and I take. I'm doing a lot of exercise. I'm walking in order to be there for the 25 or 30 years in order to add something more with my life.
That's why you're still so young in your mind with so much energy. Thank you so much, Louise. This is the end of the interview. Thank you so much for this beautiful stories and this beautiful témoignage, witnessing.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you so very much. This was Louise Champoux-Paillé on Business Minds. Thank you.
Thank you. Puis votre autre rendez-vous est à 2 heures?
1 heure.
Oh, tabarnouche.
Non, ça va aller.
Ça va aller?
Oui.
To be with Bren.
C'est on Business Minds.
On Business Minds. And I okay.